Yeah, it's the slides. Okay. Okay. So basically, to sum up, the final loss function we have is something like this. So we have this classifier which taking the input x, the image, and we have some parameter here, and we produce a score. So here I write it as a linear classifier, but it can be as complicated as a deep neural network. Just replace this with a deep neural network, and you will have some score here. And now you have with this score, you can define this loss function over this image. And because you have multiple image in your data set, then what you're going to do is sum over all the data points, that's the data loss, and you might probably want to do some regularization to avoid overfitting. So that's the loss function. And with this loss function and the idea that we're trying to do the function minimization, then the problem becomes, give this loss function and all the parameter in the neural network, how can we find a parameter such that we can reduce this loss to minimum? That's the problem. And we are going to solve this problem by backpropagation or gradient descent. So to make this thing really scalable or like implementable in reality, we have a different point of view of seeing the whole model. So we're going to look at it in a computational graph perspective. So what that means is we're going to construct a computational graph. Then the input is the component is the x, the input image, and all the parameter here, and all the operations. Operation will be like something like a multiply, dot product, or like a plus, or this complicated. The whole thing can be looked at hinge loss. You can see as a operation, so which is differentiable. All the operation here is differentiable. So we have data parameter, a lot of operations, calculation, and sum them together, and you have loss function. Like this is the computational graph that group all the data and the parameter with those operations to the final loss function. That's the computational graph. Why do we want to do use the computational graph? That is because we're trying to adjust this W here and to reduce this loss function at the end, right? So we're going to do is we do gradient descent, but we're going to do it in a smarter way. We're not going to directly like take a gradient of this term with of L with respect to W, because there are too many things in the middle. We try to do it like in modularity way. So that's computational graph. So any question with this computational graph? Okay, I think yeah. Before we were going to into a toy example, but before that, let me just introduce you with the, any neural network can be seen as a computational graph. So any neural network. So what is, for example, this AlexNet, which is the convolution neural network we haven't got into, which we won the 2012 ImageNet competition and bring the revolution to computer vision. And this neural network here, we have the input image, and we have a lot of weights associated with this network structure. Don't be afraid of all this image here. Just think it as some sort of operation, and we will get into that later part. And then with all this transformation and weights, at the end you have this loss function. This loss you defined. So this is a computational graph. So neural network seen as a computational graph. Okay, now let's look at the example of computational graph. It's really simple. So you have this, so it's definitely not a neural network, but it's a computational graph. So you have x, y, z. You can think it as a parameter that you can adjust. And then you're going to, with a set of x, y, z, you're going to output something. For example, a label of them, score for a label, but definitely not here. And what we want is actually because we're trying to do gradient descent. Then what's the gradient? Show me the gradient. Gradient is this f to x, f to y, f to z, because we suppose x, y, z are parameters. So this is super simple, and you might not even use your pen. You can know, oh, what is x, y, z, or what is this term. But if you imagine like such a complicated computational graph, so there are weights and the first layer, second layer, third layer. So you want to take a gradient of this loss function to the first layer. How do you do that? You cannot do it with a pen. That's not possible. You need to do it with a computer. So that's why we consider this in another way. We do not directly compute f to x if it is too complicated, f to y, f to z. What we do is that we first look at several nodes here, operation nodes here, like these multiplication nodes, plus nodes, and for these plus nodes, the gradient of this q to the x is 1. That's for sure, right? For each of the operation node here, what's the derivative look like. So this one you have here, and then multiplication. So this corresponds to the multiplication nodes there. And then for NAND node, what's the gradient look like, or derivative look like? It look like this. So f to q is z, so f to z is q. Okay, so what we have for now is we have an operation node, and for each of the operation node, we know the derivative. So which means each of the operation node has to be differentiable. Now let's get what we want here to f to x. So first is the derivative of f with respect to itself is 1, right? And now we try to get the derivative from the z. So how do we get the z? So you might notice we have this multiply sign here, multiplication node there. And for multiplication, so you have two things, q times z. And if you take the derivative of z, then it's q, which basically is the output q, right? So that's q, 3, easy. And now we want to take a derivative of f with respect to the q. And again, according to this computational node, multiplication node, you have f to the q is z. So what is it? 4, right? Yeah. Okay. Now you have this. Now that's not done, right? Because you have this one to the z. You have, but you to the x and to the y. You want one that is still not there yet. So what should we do? We back propagation, right? That's back propagation. We propagate until here and here. Now we want to propagate to there, x and y. So so x and y you can see is q to the x is 1, to the y is also 1. And what do we do? Yeah, you use train rule. So this f to the y, according to the train rule, is actually equal to f to the q and q to the y. So you already have this f to the q minus 4 here there, and then this q to the y, according to this operation q to the y is 1. Then you just copy whatever it is to this negative minus 4 to minus 4. And you do the same thing for this one. Yeah, train rule. Right. Yeah, is this clear? So this is a toy example of back propagation. You can see here, so the reason we call it back propagation is we have some error here, and we keep propagating to here. But what it really does is this differentiation, right? We want to get a deep gradient or derivative of this by doing this process, and actually you can implement it. I will introduce a little bit later. And now, yeah, to summarize, here we have operation f. We have to make sure this f is differentiable. And we have the x, y as input, and with some transformation inside here. a lot of transformation or simple transformation, it doesn't matter. But you output Z. So yeah, suppose so each of these operations it has to construct this local gradient. So given the Z, what's the gradient to X? What's the gradient to Y? It has to construct these two things. And it has to take into account of the previous gradient. So the loss gradient of the loss with respect to this Z here. And with these three things, we can backpropagate the gradient of loss function to the X like this, just a chain rule. And to the Y is again the same chain rule. Right, so you can imagine there is another F here, another transformation here. It takes into this one, and then it has itself the local gradient. And then it can backpropagate this gradient to any node, anything in the network. So that's the essence of the backpropagation. Okay, so yeah, another example here, we can have a very complicated one like this, and we don't need to really go over it, but you can imagine it's the same thing. But the one thing is, to note here is that we can actually, for example, for this function, we can actually construct a high-level function such as this sigmoid function. So you can think of it as a sigmoid function with this x here being those a lot of summations. So because in this way you can simplify the computational graph. Instead of go over all these operations, you can treat this whole thing as sigmoid gate operation. And for this operation, the gradient, local gradient is the what's the output. What's the gradient of the output to the input is very simple in this form. So you, for example, you want to know the gradient of loss with respect to here. So then what you do is you take this according to this. The output is 0.73. So you have this times 1 minus this same term. You get this much quicker. And then you go over all the gates. So yeah. So we might observe some patterns in this computational graph. So for example, for the add gate or add operation, it acts like the gradient distributor, just like distribute the gradient to both two paths. And if we have max gate, that's a nonlinear gate. This max gate, there is a gradient router is root, for example, this larger, then you will root for this direction, but this will be 0. And if you have multiplication, kind of like a switcher, if so if something is large, probably you have large one. Yeah, so how do we implement this in like real systems? So in many real systems that can do those gradient descent to calculate those gradient automatically for you, they have this kind of interface. You have this like a multiply gate operation. You define this forward operation and a backward operation. For the forward operation, is basically how do you map its input to its output. And for this backwards operation, it basically does is take derivative of its output or with respect to its input. So you can see if it's multiplication, and then you just do, it has to take into the gradient of loss function to this z. So suppose this given, and then multiply by y, that's for the gradient for the x. And if for the y is the x times the previous gradient. So with this, you can have a single operation unit in a computational graph. So Yeah, so computational graph is actually kind of like a Lego if you have ever played it. You can stack a lot of operations all together. For example, you have this multiply and the plus and like exponential and a lot of operations. You can even take a neural network layer as kind of operation. So, and then you stack them together to form a real giant beast of neural network of any complexity, and you can do the gradient descent like just a call function, as easy as call function. So that's the benefit of we treat it as a computational graph and do things modularly. Is there any question with respect to this one? Okay. Okay. Now let's take a 10 minutes break before we're going to introduce the convolution neural network.